Welcome to the Spirit Soul Series podcast, and we're back with another episode. And I'm just going to do the incantation now.
Yeah.
Om Jnanatimirandasya Jnananjana Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dina Bandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namosute तप्त कंचन गौरंगी राधे वृंदावनेश्वरी ऋषभानुसुतदेवी प्रणमामि हरिप्रिये वंशकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिन्धुभ्य एव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः नमो ओं विष्णुपादाय कृष्णपृष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमती भक्तिवेदान्त स्वामी इति नामिने नमस्ते सरस्वती देवी गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेष शून्यवादी पाश्चात्यदेशतारिणे श्रीकृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंदा श्री अद्वैता गदाधर श्रीवसादि गौरभक्तवृंदा हरे कृष्णा कृष्ण कृष्ण हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे जय राधा माधव कुंज बिहारी जय राधा माधव कुंज बिहारी गोपी जन वल्लभा गिरिवारधारी गोपी जन वल्लभा गिरिवारधारी यशोदनन्दन व्रज जनरञ्जन यशोदनन्दन व्रज जनरञ्जन यमुनतीरावनचारी यमुनतीरावनचारी
Hare Krishna.
Krishna.
Jai Srila Prabhupada. And we are resuming today. Word
Which verse was it?
verse 5. We are resuming chapter 11, the universal
11.
form, and verse 5. Because in this verse, Sri Bhagavan Vacha, Lord Krishna starts replying to the request. He starts responding to the request and questions of Arjuna. So we'll start by chanting this fifth verse 3 times and then start discussing, like go back to how we were doing it earlier. Yeah?
Okay.
Shri
Sri
Bhagavan
Bhagavan Vacha Pasya me partha rupani शतशोत्थासहस्राशः नानाविधानि दिव्यानि नानावर्णाकृतिनि च श्रीभगवान् च भाष्यामि पार्थरूपाणि शतशोत्थासहस्राशः नानाविधानि दिव्यानि नानावर्णाकृतिनि च श्रीभगवानुवाच भाष्यामि पार्थरूपाणि शतशोऽष्टासहस्राशः नानाविधानि दिव्यानि नानावर्णाकृतीनि च.
Okay. The Supreme Personality of Godhead said, "My dear Arjuna, O son of Pratha, see now my opulences, hundreds of thousands of very divine and multicolored forms." So here the key word is sahasrashah. Sahasra, it means like thousands immediately. It means that's the direct translation, thousands. Nana vidhani divyani, nana varnakriti. Varnakriti, so much variety, variegated. One speaker gave like an analogy to explain what this must look like. He said, say you go into a mall. Nowadays you have this mall of Travancore and you have Lulu Mall and so on, for those who are in Kerala. And let's say naturally on every floor there are different shops selling different brands of different types of goods. Supposing in a central hall, they come and put all their stuff in one place. The shoes and the t-shirts and the juice and the ice creams and the furniture and everything together. It is and you are placed there with, even if not the entire shop comes down, but all the samples of the different items of all the brands of on all the floors comes into one floor, and there's some place for you and you stand there and look at it. It's just terribly overwhelming and confusing. unrelated things just from all around. And this is not just visually like right in front, it's from all sides. Arjuna, once Krishna gives him the right or the vision, he gives him special kind of powerful eyes, he grants that.
Divine
Divine,
vision.
divine vision, exactly. He sees it. So it's extremely frightening and overwhelming. I mean, normally when we if we even just see a fire starting, you see these forest fires in a particular season. Forest, I don't know if it's in the south, but in the north, sometimes the Himalayan ranges, these trees catch fire. Someone carelessly leaves a cigarette stub or something, and that itself the fire blazing. Or why? I mean, why in Cochin you had that waste management
Yeah,
center?
yeah,
I forget the name, but
yeah,
that
yeah.
itself is, yeah, right. It's just a huge blaze, and that's so frightening. You want to move away from it.
Brahmapuram. That's the name of that.
Brahmapuram.
Brahmapuram.
Right? Yeah, it was in the papers for such a long time. So similarly here, it's a combination of a blaze and figures inside it and things happening, and of course that description is going to follow. So that's what he's going to basically grant, since Arjuna wants to know, wants a practical demonstration of how Krishna permeates the entire universe, as he has been theoretically claiming in the previous chapters and in the previous verses. Can you read the purport, please?
Yeah. Arjuna wanted to see Krishna in his universal form, which, although a transcendental form, is just manifested for the cosmic manifestation and is therefore subject to the temporary time of this material nature. As the material nature is manifested and not manifested, similarly, this universal form of Krishna is manifested and non manifested. It is not eternally situated in the spiritual sky like Krishna's other forms. As far as a devotee is concerned, he is not eager to see the universal form. But because Arjuna wanted to see Krishna in this way, Krishna reveals this form. This universal form is not possible to be seen by any ordinary man. Krishna must give one the power to see it.
Okay, the crucial point in this purport is that the universal form is material. Now, when people hear this, they get confused and say, how can it be material because it was a divine revelation and so on? It's material because it manifests and then it just disappears. It's not eternally there. Whereas if you go to the spiritual world, all the other avatars of Krishna, whether it's, there's a special planet where the Narsimha avatar is available, there is Vishnu of course in Vaikuntha, and there is, and so on, there is Gauranga in but this particular universal form, it doesn't exist in the spiritual world. It was displayed only here in this material world, and after the manifestation is over, it went away. Therefore it is considered material because it was temporary. Okay, that's the reason. Although it is, yes, it came from the Lord, it is a divine manifestation and the rest of it, and divine vision had to be granted to Arjuna to see it. Fact is that it is temporary, and like everything in the material world that is temporary, therefore it's considered material. Okay, verse 6. It's Krishna speaking again. These 3-4 verses Krishna keeps speaking.
Okay.
Pashyadityan
Pashyadityan
vasu
vasun rudran
ashvinam
ashvinau marutastata bahuni adrishta
adrishta
purvani
pashyadityan
pasyascharyaani bharata.
again. Pashyadityan
Pashyadityan vasun rudran ashvinau marutastata
marutastata bahu
bahuni adrishta purvani Pasyascharyaani Bharata.
again.
Pasyatyan
Pashyadityan
vasunrudran
vasurudhan
ashvinau
ashvinam
marutastata
marutastata
bahuni adrishta purvani pasyascharyaani Bharata.
Okay, so here it is a description of the different characters that are going to be present in the universal form. Look at the translation. Would you like to read the translation, please, Kanan?
Yeah.
Best.
O best of the Bharatas, see here the different manifestations of Adityas, Vasus, Rudras, Ashwini Kumaras, and all the other demigods. Behold the many wonderful things which no one has ever seen or heard of before.
Okay, so in an earlier verse, when he was talking about his all his opulences, Lord Krishna, when he says, I am this of the Adityas. Adityas, basically they are 12 in number, and they are born of Aditi, goddess Aditi, and starting with Vivaswan and then so many others. So Vivaswan basically is the sun god. You remember
Yeah.
Arjuna, Lord Krishna
Pass
says
down the pass
passed
down
down.
the
Exactly.
knowledge.
Very
Yeah.
good. Yeah, exactly. The knowledge of the Bhagavad Gita starting from Vivaswan, the sun god. The Vasus, there are 8 Vasus. And the Vasus whose children are there, I think it's again Aditi and Kashyap, I'm not sure. But the crucial point is here is that one of those Vasus went and stole sage Vashishta's cow because his wife took a fancy to it. And to please her, he goes and steals the cow. Now, when Sage Vashisht comes to know, he gets very angry and curses the 8 Vasus. But most of all, he curses that Vasu who did the stealing. Prabhasha, I think, is his name. So, and he curses them, saying, you will lose your position here in this heavenly kingdom, and you will go down to the material world. But since you are repentant, 7 of the 8 Vasus will be born and then die quickly and come back, go back there. But one of them, the one who actually did the stealing, will remain there in a mortal form and live out a whole lifespan.
That's the Bhishma. Is that Bhishma?
That's right. Exactly. That's Bhishma. And they are all born to Ganga. And
Hmm.
when Ganga gets on with, connects with Shantanu, she puts down this condition that he should never ask why.
Yeah. Why?
Yeah, when she keeps destroying each child that's born, I think she throws the child into the Ganges because she's fulfilling that prophecy that they're born and then they quickly, the curse is over and then they die and go back. But the one that got the real curse, that is Bhishma, correct. Ashwini Kumar, Rudras, I think there are 11 or 10 Rudras. Those are just different avatars of Shiva, but names like Shambhu, etc. Ashwini Kumaras are 2 in number, and they have horse forms. That's why this term Ashwini, because Ashwamedha Yagya means a
Hmm.
horse sacrifice.
Awesome.
2 of them, and they are supposed to be circling the celestial, the sky, in their chariots, and they are somehow to be appeased if you want health, cure for diseases, knowledge of medicine, and so on. And Ashwini Kumaras beget in the womb of Madri. They fathered Nakul and Sahadev.
Hmm.
Okay, in the Pancha Pandavas, Ashwini Kumaras have a link because they produced Nakul and Sahadev. Okay, so that's where they come in. And then all the other demigods, and behold the many wonderful things which no one has ever seen or heard of before. Purport: even though Arjuna was a personal friend of Krishna and the most advanced of learned men, it was still not possible for him to know everything about Krishna. Here it is stated that humans have neither heard nor known of all these forms and manifestations. Now Krishna reveals these wonderful forms. Someone gave a very material, again, a material kind of parallel. There was a famous criminal case in America, and it was like the case of a serial murderer who had a very smooth and very deceptive exterior and a profile nobody suspected. So finally, when he got arrested and they made the connection and traced several murders to him, a very good friend of his, not a girlfriend, but someone who'd known him for very long, wrote a book. She was shell shocked, but she wrote a book called Stranger at My Shoulder, or Stranger Behind My Shoulder, because there was no way that she suspected even slightly. Then the location of some of the murders and the fact that that friend of hers had, the murders stopped happening in one place the minute he left and moved to Seattle. Then they started in Seattle. So vaguely in the back of her mind, she said, how is this a coincidence? But there was nothing to suggest he had a violent side or he was a psychopath and that he could do so much violence to. Finally, he was arrested and hanged, as far as I know. But so she writes this book, and I think a movie's been made on it. Stranger at My Heels, or Stranger at My Shoulder. So it's like, she saw a totally unexpected side of the nature of someone she thought she knew very well. That's maybe a very poor and crude the kind of not such a suitable, but it's to give you an idea what Arjuna felt like when he starts showing this universal form, because the whole equation changes. The whole equation with Krishna has changed, because otherwise he was a cousin and he was a sakha, and they were so relaxed, and Arjuna didn't have to worry about looking a fool when he told him, I'm not going to fight, and Krishna didn't have to feel anything for chastising him, calling him a fool, that you got utterly bewildered, you don't want to do your duty because you're scared of killing your guru and your other people, the teachers. So it was an easy relationship, but both could be so frank with each other. Now all that's going to change, the equation changes, and the whole the mood between them changes, and that's just what's going to happen. Next verse, seventh verse. Ihaikastam
Haikastam jagat kritsnam pasyadhyasa characharam mama dehe gudakesha yachanyad drashtum
Again.
ihaikastam jagat kritsnam pasyadhyasa characharam mama dehe gudakesha yachanyad drashtum ichhasi
Again.
ihaikastam jagat kritsnam pasyadya sacharacharam mama dehe gudakesha yachanyad drashtum ichhasi.
So please read the translation.
Yeah, O Arjuna, whatever you wish to see, behold at once in this body of mine. This universal form can show you whatever you now desire to see and whatever you may want to see in the future. Everything moving and non moving is here completely in one place.
Okay. And the purport, no one can see the entire universe while sitting in one place. Even the most advanced scientists cannot see what's going on in other parts of the universe. That's true. Now they have night vision goggles.
Mm.
Apparently, hunters and I don't know about space scientists, but they discovered something like that, that you're in the dark and you put on certain goggles.
Night vision goggles. Yeah,
Yeah, and
yeah,
apparently you can see everything with those
yeah.
goggles. I'm not sure how that works, but and there was a video doing the rounds on WhatsApp. Child who'd been born blind, and then someone donated eyes to this child. So there's a operation, and the child his eyes are bandaged, and the child is screaming because they're trying to pull out the cotton and everything. And the mother is keeping 2 3 year old very frail looking girl child, Indian. And then when they remove the cotton wool, the child is completely bewildered because she always knew this mother by touch, and it's very moving the way the child is trying to take in. Obviously the child has now got sight and can see everything. So what we take so much for granted, the ability to see, and in
Mm.
Arjuna's case, thanks to the extreme mercy of Krishna, who is willing to satisfy Arjuna's demand that show me how you actually are there, how you permeate every part of the universe. And that's not because Arjuna is doubting, because as he says, for future generations, to put this down, that he was able to see it, and only a true Supreme Lord is one who can show that he is permitted. Like nowadays we say, walk your talk. Don't just claim tall things. Walk your talk, man. I mean, do it and show it. So that's what's happening here. And as he says, even the greatest scientists can't see what's going on in other parts of the universe. Of course, now, I guess with Skype and with media and stuff, you can,
Mm.
to a certain extent you can, but you can't see simultaneously what's happening everywhere in every part of the world. But a devotee like Arjuna can see everything that exists in any part of the universe. Krishna gives him the power to see anything he wants to see, past, present, and future. That's even more scary. To be able to see the future takes a lot of gall or guts to be able to stomach and see the future. Thus, by the mercy of Krishna, Arjuna is able to see everything. All
I
right.
always, I always thought like if you could have this ability of being able to see into the future, wouldn't like let's say the future is not very good for you, let's say, but what if you could make some decisions to change that?
Uh-huh.
Like would that future change basically? Like if you had the vision to see what is in the future, like based on your current like based on how currently everything is moving. Like in this case, he's able to see like his past, present, and future. So he's able to see how what's going to happen in the future timeline. But let's say like for anybody else who was seeing their future, it wasn't that good. Will they be able to like change the current? What if they change it currently? Will that also impact their future as well, or will that remain the
Actually,
same? Like,
no, two answers to this. One is actually good astrology is supposed to help us do this. It's supposed to help us predict that when this comes, this particular kind of difficulty on the job front or the physical well-being or financial difficulties, and then accordingly if you can plan against it. There's this famous story of a raja who he got a very accurate prediction. I think he's even identified in Indian history that in the last 5 years of his life, he will be begging for food. Somehow circumstances will come around. So he did something very smart. He straightaway started pumping a lot of money into these free food schemes. His entire kingdom, everywhere there was some, and he ensured that the quality and the nutritional value, etc., and that anybody who needed food could go there. Because the prediction did come true, but he had already ensured when he was in a good position as a raja and he had control over funds, he took that very wise step, maybe you can say with selfish interest, so that when he was put into a plight where really he lost his kingdom, he lost his power, they completely threw him out, the family left him, but he had these not eateries, I don't know where food is distributed, what it's called, these Punjabis call it a bhandar, free meals,
yeah,
Gurudwara.
Gurudwara, they have that.
Bhandar is
Yeah,
usually one big meal, but it's very nutritious with the dal and the rice and the vegetables. It's like a langar or
langar.
what
Yeah,
langar,
yeah.
correct. And then there is a tasty sweet halwa. So something like this, a Raja ensured. And the story is often told to us because we might not be within, it might not be within our power to change that directly, what's in store for us. But we can make subsidiary or secondary arrangements so that we get through that period without much difficulty. I think this is certainly true, very, very true. That if you have and of course, the more we build a connection with the Lord, with Krishna, even mundane astrological predictions, they come to our help. We don't have to go to a kind of super expensive and super qualified astrologer because the ordinary rank and file devotee may not be able to reach him. But Krishna arranges things in such a way that you come across something that immediately from inside feels true. That's right, I'm going to enter my whatever, whichever period is going to be a bit tough for me, or from this age to that age is going to be a little tough for me for whatever reason, maybe with just smattering of understanding of, and based on that we take certain precautions, we put some savings aside, or we don't try doing something too risky if we feel we are going to be accident prone, or we work on our health because we feel there is a weakness which can develop into a serious disease. There's acidity, it can go into an ulcer. So straight away start cutting down things that are provoking the acidity. This is intelligence. This is real intelligence to be able, like you're saying, to foresee, even if we don't all have a Krishna who shows us a universal form in terms of what's coming for us. But basically we kind of negotiate or negotiate a path through what is our own future according to our karma and make things little easier for us, even if we can't directly impact and change the karma totally.
Mm.
I mean, this is one extreme example, but I still think it's almost like borderline bizarre that the lady could be so calm, a 24, 23-year-old lady. This is the grandmother of, what's that guy? Madhavara Sindhya, who died in the plane crash.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, Madhavrao Sindhya was
Jyoti,
a
the
minister. No,
yeah,
Jyotiraditya's father was Madhavrao.
father is okay.
Madhavrao Sindhya's mother was that lady who lived a long time. She passed away. She was kind of BJP Rajmata. Her mother, her mother was a Nepali chieftain's daughter and had been homeschooled. But she'd been homeschooled in also a lot of these traditional vidyas like astrology. And she had a particular extra interest in that. So what she saw, she got married, then she comes back to give birth to the child, and even before the child is born, she starts looking at a horoscope and realizes that that child's birth will be followed by some very severe deterioration of her own health and possible death. Her own, that is the child's mother. So she steals herself because they are so completely trained in this idea that there are more lifetimes. It is not like only this life and such a great tragedy if life is cut short. They know there have been previous lives and there will be more lives. So when she comes back to deliver the child, she quietly takes all her jewels and her all the valuable things she brings back without the husband's family coming to know. Because she knows very well once his death occurs, his child is never going to go back to the husband's. The way things worked those days, this child will be brought up by the maternal grandparents, and that man, husband, will probably get over his widower status soon and marry again. That's how the Indian system worked. Then the child is born, and based on the time of the birth of the child, she again casts another horoscope and is even more confirmed that she is not going to live beyond another 2 weeks. So it is fantastic. She just calls her mother and explains, this child, I mean, I am not this, these are the stars, this is what, and of course they weep and howl and they are shocked. But that's exactly how it comes. Sorry. Sapna, ഞാൻ പഠിപ്പിക്കണോ ഓൺലൈൻ ഞാൻ പിന്നെ So this is an excellent example of, this is an extreme example. I mean, this was an extreme life situation for her. She was born a chieftain and in some remote part of Nepal and homeschooled. But in a more ordinary and less dramatic way, I'm sure even we can take certain steps. I think all intelligent people, whether they are devotee or non-devotee, do make certain informed decisions or informed anticipation of certain developments. And then as life moves on, they see whether they've been right or they've been wrong. And then when we become devotees and we get a direct connection with the Lord, then it should be even more possible. Because the Lord is also from the heart prompting and making us think and sending people into our lives and making us read and hear things that just kind of make us, we feel a connection, and we feel this is really something for me. Yeah.
I think like what you're saying is like everything is like experienced based. So it's kind of like you experience something and then you learn from that.
Yeah.
And sometimes, although I do feel like whether something whenever something happens, is it like Krishna's teach like giving? Is it like a test that Krishna's making me go through, or is it like uh, you know do is it something that I deserve, for example, like so it's kind of there's like that
Both. I think
both are
it's both. Both
both,
are
right?
there.
Yeah.
Because some of it is because we deserve, and either we immediately can see what we did to bring this on, or we've done the same cruelty or harshness to someone else, or whatever. The other half is that it's also a test because he's going to see how we are going to maneuver through it, and then he gives the intelligence and he gives the supply of solutions also. That's the difference between being a devotee in connection with Krishna and not being a devotee. And what you talked about experience, bhakti itself is like that, like the 9th chapter, 2nd verse. The famous verse that starts, it's a Raja Vidya, Raja Guhyam
Yeah,
Pavitramidam.
I've heard. Yeah.
The second sentence, Pratyakshavagamam Dharmyam, that is, it is to be known by direct experience. Only then you really know what bhakti is. I mean, we don't have to be Rupa Goswami and Jiva Goswami, even rank and file devotees like us. We start seeing how Krishna gives help and sees us through. Pratyakshavagamam means really one has to experience it and then one realizes it's true. Okay.
So I've kind of just to add on to that point, just like
Yeah.
wanted to say that if like I've noticed that I'll go through some either it's some difficulty or some issue, whatever it is,
Yeah.
and in the moment I'll be like, oh, I'll feel like, okay, this is like a test. I need to figure out how to get past this or get better at it, or clear it or whatever. And so I'm like thinking and I'm like praying and then going through it, and then finally I go through it, let's say for example, and but then after like like couple of months later, then uh, I'll be like, why did I have to get so worked up about it? I didn't have to be so worked up. But at the same time, like if I hadn't like done all this, maybe
Thinking,
intense thinking,
thinking and
intense,
worrying and
yeah,
intense. Yeah.
intense, like maybe like prayer or focus and all that stuff, I probably wouldn't have gone through that. I wouldn't have probably been able to complete it. I would have probably like said no, I don't want to do it, and I would have left off.
That's right.
So
That's right.
in so the thing is like, so on one hand, but at the same, and also I'd be like, oh yeah, but that also helped in one sense to make me a little better in understanding this, and like get going through this difficulty made me a bit stronger and more so that I could face a similar situation again without any issues and all that
Sure.
stuff.
Sure.
So it on in when you're going through it, you feel like, oh, I deserve it, but also it's like a test in one sense and all that stuff. But then once you get out of it, then you realize, oh, this is something that I actually needed. I needed this to
Get
I
more
needed
clarity,
to
to
get
get
more
more
clarity on, yeah,
clarity.
to get, yeah, like I felt like sometimes Krishna doesn't give you what you want, but he gives you what you need, what you need basically. So
Absolutely.
what is there, like what's inside you very deeply, what you want, like you may want, like externally you may like look at your friends and other people, and then you may say, oh, I want this house, or I want this car, I want this or
Job.
that and all stuff.
Yeah.
But deep down there is like a desire that is like, you just want to be like a little bit happy. So,
Mm.
or you just want to do,
Right.
you want like you want this, you want to be happy and content. So
Correct.
it's like it's he's leading you to a path that may not give you like a car or whatever and all that
Right.
externally, but every time you're pushed into that
Right.
direction,
Right.
you're getting a little bit more happier than what you were a bit before. And
Exactly. Exactly.
I felt this, like, when the more you pray to Krishna, the more he keeps giving you what you need rather than what you actually want,
That's
He's not
also
going to give.
because, yeah, as he's there in the heart as a super soul, no, he's there
Mm,
as Paramatma. So he knows exactly what you're hankering for. If it
mm,
is somebody who just wants a lavish life, he might throw a car at that person, and maybe the person already has a karma to get that kind of flashy car to rush out to paint the town red or whatever. But with devotees, he knows what's in our best interest and what we actually want. 100%, this is 100% true. It's quite amazing. It's He knows us better and he knows what we want better than we ourselves. But at the same time, as you said, we have to go through that intense thinking and worrying and praying and introspection. If we don't do
and
our side, then he is not
mm,
inclined to
and
actually help.
also I feel like the more I engage like in with Krishna, in like as if we are actually in some type of like as if we are in a relationship, proper
Right.
relationship, like we are like, at least like in my case they say like, it is like a relation, like the type one of the relationships is like friendship in one
Right.
sense, like
Sure.
you're there with me at every stage, like going through some difficulty, I have this friend with me always who's there with me to give me support or something like that. So that feeling of like, okay, this person is there is very powerful in that sense, and
Right.
like
Right.
like yeah, so I've just like, and when you're when you and you also like sometimes you can get angry with him also, like
Mm.
sometimes I'll be like all because a lot of the times what happens is like you spend a lot of the time thinking about Krishna, sing, chanting, and all that stuff. Some slight negative thing happens, and you'll be like, "Why did you do this?" Like you'll go like, and then you'll kind of, but then at the same time, you're not like at least as long as that thing doesn't become like I don't ever want to do this. I
Mm.
like because in my case sometimes I'll be like, oh, why do like I know this is like some type of test or something like that stuff, but why at this moment, why couldn't have done before, later or some other
Yeah,
time.
exactly, exactly.
But
Mm.
then you still like you may, but still I'll still do it, because you think it's good for me or whatever and stuff, I'll still do it. I'll still go with it and all stuff. So it's I like I treat it as like a proper relationship that you have with somebody.
Right. Yeah.
But yeah,
Unless he puts us in difficult positions, he doesn't get a chance to show his hand and produce a solution. If
mm,
everything is going very smoothly for someone, no setbacks, no upsets, no nothing, then there is very little scope to really turn to the Lord desperately or to even do introspection. And there is even less scope for the Lord to show his hand and say, look, this was the solution actually I was preparing for you. And you know that for the relationship to develop, there have to come certain glitches, if you like,
Mm.
which people have to cross, both parties have to cross. So what you're saying, yeah, absolutely, it's very correct. Now it's past
Yeah.
5:30. So shall we stop here and we
Yeah.
start
We
class
can do it
from verse 8?
8 onwards. Okay.
8 onwards, remember. Okay, so
Yeah.
I'll keep it in mind either Sunday or Monday for you,
Okay.
right?
So yeah,
Okay,
just let me know. Like, just tell me. Yeah.
I'll let you know.
Okay. Bye,
Okay,
Supriya.
take care,
Take care.
all the best.
Bye. Bye.
Hare
Krishna.